Greetings. Here I am again. I'm going to do a live demo for you on how to prepare the 4 remedies that I'm covering that are general and easy to find in any supermarket, in any farmer's market, easy to grow in your garden, except maybe the cinnamon. And I'm going to cover a live demo on how to prepare these tinctures. It's very easy, especially if you grow these plants in your garden. You'll find that you might have an abundance of it. And even if you dry some for tea, you could, especially if it's something like passion flower that grows on a vine, rosemary that could turn into a really big bush. It's very helpful to know how to make tinctures because this lasts very long. Remember too that a tincture doesn't necessarily go bad, it gets stronger. So the more it sits in the alcohol, the stronger it becomes. So if you had one for a while, you want to try less than you usually would to see how strong it is and how it's affecting your body. So the first one I want to cover is, they're really all easy. So I put the cinnamon, we broke it up into little pieces. Originally I bought the Ceylon cinnamon in whole pieces, and we broke it down into little pieces. I bought fresh chamomile, not dry, but if you had dry, you'd be doing a similar process to this. And I have fresh lemongrass also. If you grow lemongrass, you'll know it grows really abundantly. A big bush comes out and you'll be able to harvest it. You don't always have to pull it and cut it from the very bottom, this is what you use more in the kitchen for culinary purposes. You make your soup, stocks with this. There are pieces of this in this jar. These jars are the best, the amber jars, because even if you put it, you're gonna see we are going to put it in a bag and away from sunlight. But the amber jar just really ensures that sunlight does not penetrate and just begin to weaken the potency of the alcohol and of the plant itself. So we broke it up, like I said, into little pieces. The cinnamon I did have to break up in my mortar, so that's a useful tool to have. Most people you could use 100 proof, right? You could buy a really, really strong liquor, or you could buy like a cheap, strong one, like licor de caña, which is made from cane, so it's cane liquor. It's kind of cheap and it's really strong, but you can use regular bottles of alcohol. I have made some with tequila. If anybody's familiar with Bach uses brandy, and it still works. It's not medical grade alcohol, but it still works. So I got a bottle from my grandma's cabinet. And we fill the jars. You have to give it. Now, when I use the medical grade alcohol, and you'll see the recipes I'm sharing don't mention this, I do add about 10% distilled water, because that alcohol is very strong. And like I said, things just get stronger as they sit. And that amount of distilled water does help. I noticed that with these bottles, like 80 proof, 70 proof, 90 proof, you don't need it so much. This might be lower. This is a 40% proof, but it still works. Once you have it filled, I'll show you with the clear glass how much I filled it. Sometimes you have to check on it because it's still making its way all the way through. You could also be careful. So you'll see as I fill the chamomile, you'll start to see the alcohol, filling it up. I didn't pack the herbs super tight so that the alcohol can distribute itself evenly. I'm going to show you, we're still going to protect this. There you go. This actually needs a little more. Now, you'll find when you check your tinctures that they do start to evaporate a little. Sometimes you do have to add more alcohol. More in the heat, you might find that you could use something. They also sell weights, glass weights that you're able to put in jars like this to keep the herbs down. I've never bought any and I've never used it, so it's not necessary. So we covered that for kapha. So all the elements within us are mixed with water, since we're predominantly water. So like kapha is earth, water, pitta is earth, water, fire, and vata is air, water. Now, these three herbs cover how to warm up for a kapha, how to cool off for a pitta, and also that there's another warming and grounding element for vata. And then you ask, how about when you're low on water and minerals? It's really minerals that'll dehydrate you. When you're dehydrated, you're actually you have insufficient minerals, and that's what you really got to get in. Sometimes you could drink tons of water, but you still will be dehydrated if you did not take in enough minerals. So one of my favorite remedies that I also want to share with you, before we get into what we're going to do with these, I want to wait a second to see if we need to put more alcohol. So before we get to that, is brine. And this is something I learned early on in herbalism, and I find it to be one of my favorite and general remedies. Anyone in tribe might have heard me already talk about it, because I go on and on about it, because it really is inexpensive, effective, and beneficial. So this is just some of my filtered water that I even ran through my Hydrolux. And this is 32 ounces of water, about a liter, a little under a liter. So I'm going to get some Himalayan salt, and this is Himalayan salt. Make sure when you buy your salt, it doesn't just say pink salt. Himalayan salt's the best. Celtic sea salt is also one of the best. And real salt, which is a mineral salt that you could find in any health food store. So this is a general way to get minerals inside of you. It works so well. Even if you're feeling fatigued, you'll find it'll bring up your energy. If your gut has been feeling funny, even from stress, it has beneficial minerals, and it begins to make like little bacteria, because you're going to see how I'm going to tell you to store it. And it feeds the gut. It relaxes it like a muscle relaxant, and it also helps you pre-digest food. So it's great to have before meals. It's great to have even like for females when you're feeling a little like crampy, even PMS, when you're feeling moody. I still suggest you take minerals, and because it makes our fluids more electric and more magnetic. So we're going to put 2 teaspoons of the salt. I do have a little bit of a heaping amount, because you'll see after you... Now for people, you get used to the flavor. For people who might feel like, oh, I have hypertension, or I got to watch my sodium, Himalayan salt is not the same as regular table salt with iodine. This does not have added iodine. This does not have... It's not cut with fillers or bleach, and it actually still has all its minerals, so it does not affect your blood the same way as table salt does. It actually will hydrate you, and it would help symptoms of hypertension. That might sound counterintuitive, but it is not. So then you cover it, shake it up. If you wanted, so like the general amount is about 3 ounces 3 times a day before food. This is your base. If you drink all of this, you'll have a flush. You'll be on the toilet for like 2 hours, and in half an hour you will be. But that's not what this is for. This is your base. Every day, get about 3 ounces from here, and drink 3 ounces before each meal. If you have small children, you could give them like a tablespoon or 2. And for your teenagers, this is great, because you can't always be monitoring how much water they drink, but you at least know that they have enough minerals. And this you just place somewhere in your kitchen where it does not get hit directly by sunlight, and where it's like cool and not too hot. You might find in a few days there'll be like a little pink culture. It's okay, don't worry about it. You could just add more water on top of that as it goes down, and then just label your brine. So let's look at our herbs. Okay, so yeah, it looks like the alcohol, there's not air bubbles, there aren't any, and it looks like it distributed well. And so what you do now is you get yourself like a paper bag. You put your jars in there. You're going to keep them in here for about 4 to 6 months. And you got to check them at least every other day. You move them around. Put them somewhere where the sun is not going to hit them directly. And if you don't have a paper bag, you could always get like some paper and wrap up your jar as well. After the 4 to 6 weeks, when it's ready, you'll know it's ready. It turns green. It has the flavor of the herbs, and it shouldn't be predominantly alcohol, although it will still taste like alcohol. I don't want anyone to get apprehensive about that. It tastes like alcohol, because remember, you're taking drops or dropperfuls. You're not drinking this all night. So let me tell you how you'd prepare. You can either get some cheesecloth, and you could line your strainer with the cheesecloth. I find this to be a little messier, and you could line your strainer, and then you would pour the herbs over it. Once all the alcohol goes into a bowl or a jar where you're catching the tincture, you could squeeze the herbs and utilize the herbs for a poultice as well. And that's how the cheesecloth works. I have a nut milk bag. It's a finer mesh. And I just put the herbs in here. This goes into a jar or a bowl, and you squeeze. This is my favorite. It only cost me like maybe $6, $5 or $6. You could order them on Amazon. These are great. And then you put it back in a jar. If you have a lot of it, you could put it back in a jar and then put it in a cool cabinet, somewhere where the sun doesn't hit it directly. You do not need to refrigerate it. Again, it's like having a bottle of alcohol at home. And the chamomile's awesome for children. You still could use it with children. You put it in a little bit of warm water. You just give them a few drops, maybe like 10 drops. And the lemongrass as well. And if you want, you could get little funnels, and you could fill these. This is a 1 ounce jar, and this is a half ounce jar bottle. These pipettes, they still hold the same amount. I want people to know that. So like, if you don't have to expect it to fill all the way up. It fills to where it does, because it's always 1 milliliter. And you could take up to 1 milliliter. You could take up to 2 milliliters. And that's my demonstration, how to make a homemade tincture all on your own. Wholeness.